Now that light is going to take us into the night and show the face of night, show the reality of night, the truth of night, the purpose, the function, the role the night has in the scheme of things. So that supreme light is really going to take us into the night and then show the depths of night in its glory and its possibilities, you see, something. But before we go to that canto, next canto, canto 7 of the book, we will run through again what we did last time, a few sentences, and some of them we had left hanging also. So we'll try to pick them up again, you see. A sun of transfiguration still can shine, in spite of all those problems and all those difficulties and all those obstacles. The sun of transfiguration still can shine. The emphasis is not the sun of light, but the sun of transfiguration. Transfiguration is a key word there. Transfiguration. In other words, all which is so dark, ugly, evil, false, that has had to undergo a change, a transformation, and see its divine counterparts and express themselves into those divinities, those aspects of the spirit. And night can bear its core of mystic light. Now we never know that there is something behind the night which is bright, which is mystic, which is luminous light. There is a light. In fact, because there is light behind, there can be night. Without that light, without that presence, without that Godhoodness there, it also cannot come into existence. Actually, as we have been saying in a metaphysical terms, when the Supreme plunged himself into the void, all became completely dark because he has lost complete contact with that thing. It became completely dark. Now, behind that dark, what is there? Behind that void, who is there? Behind that void, behind that dark, who is there? The Supreme Himself. The Supreme Himself is there behind the dark. In fact, that is the most beautiful thing which we have in Savitri. Savitri is going to the Supreme not by ascending through various grades of consciousness, but by penetrating through the void straight into the Supreme. As a kind of a backdoor entry straight to the Supreme. The most difficult kind of a thing which she has done. She has cut the door into the void and then she saw the Supreme Himself there, transformed death there. That after all, who is there after all? Who is this death after all? It is Supreme Himself who had taken that mask, who had put on that face, who is having a grey mask, a grey mask around him, and it is the Supreme who is doing all that kind of a thing. For what purpose? That is another matter. But now, here, because that possibility is there, a sun of transfiguration still can shine because it is there, and night can bear its core of mystic light. The self-cancelling, self-afflicting paradox, self-cancelling, it looks a paradox to us. How it has happened at all that the Supreme Light can give rise to night? That is a paradox to us. But behind that paradox, there is a kind of a logic, there is a kind of a sequence, there is a kind of an occult mechanism by which these things have happened. The self-cancelling, self-afflicted paradox into a self-luminous mystery might change. Might change, he says, might. Well, that might also mean that it has to change. It must change. The whole thrust, the whole argument, the whole emphasis, the entire raison d'etre of Savitri, the epic, is that it must change. It must change. That might is that Savitri's raison d'etre of Savitri is there and it must change. Into a self-luminous mystery might change the imbroglio into a joyful miracle. Now, why this path, etc., etc., it is another story. But the confusion, the entanglement which is there now, it has to get dissolved. It has to get resolved completely. See. It must change. It has to happen. That is why the entire undertaking has been taken up. You see. Why it is there? The self-cancelling, self-affecting paradigm into a self-luminous mystery might change the imbroglio into a joyful miracle. Joyful. There is the happiness, God's own happiness, that is there here. Now this pain and suffering and evil and falsehood and all that thing, it has to change. It is not there forever to be there. It has got to be changed. It has lost certain kind of a relationship with the Supreme Truth. That relationship has to be re-established and it has to undergo a change. But now, but in the meanwhile, what happens? Yes, it might change, it will happen, the transformation may take place, but in the meanwhile, what happens? But now, a termless labor is her fate. Her stands for life. Life has plunged into matter. She has to undergo trouble. She has to suffer. She has to bear the consequences of her entry into matter, into the physical domain. Labor, her fate, in its recurrent decimal of event, birth, death appear as this vibrating point. We have seen last time the vibrating points, the relationship of that thing. Birth, death appear as this vibrating point. The old question mark, margin, age, finished page. Yes, you have written the entire epic, but then at every page you got a question, will it change, will it happen, will it undergo this transformation? That question mark is kind of repeated at every point, recurrent, you see. Each volume of refers history. Now, each volume of a refers history. Now we can imagine the kind of work this life has done. Volumes and volumes can be written about the work she has done in matter. Volumes and volumes of work she has been doing, but still there is no. Each volume of her efforts history in the archives of the occult, the entire effort of life is kind of stored. How she has undergone through the entire process, how she has developed all these things. Really is a miracle, absolute miracle. When there was no life at all, no life at all. Even to bring out a small ant is a tremendous miracle. To us, it looks a very small matter. After all, it's a small little creature, ant. But imagine that out of nothing, you can't produce an ant on the moon, on the sun, anywhere. But she has managed to bring out that kind of a little creature in this world here. Efforts history. Now the entire history, she has produced big whales, she has produced dinosaurs, she has produced big crocodiles, and whatnot, you see. Elephants, man also now, even perhaps higher creature. Now this entire history of life, I don't know how many volumes it will occupy in the archives of the occult. In the archives of the occult, how many volumes it will occupy. Shivandu has written so much, 35 volumes in the collected works of Shivandu's works, you see, 35 volumes, you see. Mothers, they are also running into 30 volumes like that, you see. But surely the work of life is much, much larger than that. How many archives are there? How many records are there? Of that we have absolutely no idea. No idea. But perhaps by identifying ourselves with the process of evolution, how the evolution has taken place at that stage, one might be able to decipher all the sequences. The mother says, we have no idea of it because there was nobody at that time to write it down. So to say, there was nobody there at that time to write it down. But then, perhaps if you go back into history and identify yourself with life and then connect all the sequences of evolution of life into matter, you may be able to trace all those events again. Recall. Now, whether it is worthwhile doing or not is a different matter. It is another matter. Whether I should really identify myself and understand how life has produced those things, whether I should do that now is a different matter. But that is a possibility. That is a possibility. It can be done, you see. Perhaps it may not be very necessary because life has been experimenting, trying every kind of. See, even to bring about a small little creature and imagine the kind of engineering which is there behind the human being. Every aspect is so well detailed out and executed such a kind of perfection that, well, here is man and here are the possibilities of man and he can make progress. It's a miracle how she has managed all that thing. The physiological miracle is absolutely astounding, very astounding, you see. Each volume, now you say each volume, we don't know how many volumes are there, you see. Nobody asked Shebendu, please tell me how many volumes. But I think he was clever enough not to publish this Savitri so early for people to raise those questions, you see. Accompanied, most of these things have started coming after 1942, you see, in writing. Of course, publication came much later. The first time it published was, this started publishing Savitri was in 1946 in the periodicals, you see. Accompanied by an eternal, a limping, yes, through the eons, journey still because it's a long effort of history. It's a long effort of history. Therefore, it is journeying still, it is moving on. A limping here. Yes, yes, there will be God. Yes, yes, there will be divine here. Yes, yes, there will be the possibility of spirit expressing here. That yes, yes is always there. But it is limping. It is not able to walk swiftly, possibly on that thing. A limping, yes, through the eons, because of the long history, eons, journey is still accompanied by an eternal no. There is a positivism, there is an affirmation of the divine here, but that is constantly opposed by the denial. How can it be? You have so much of ignorance here, you have got death here, you have got suffering here, you have got falsehood here. How can that be here? So that eternal no is there. Sorry, you are mad. You cannot imagine that thing can change here, you see. It is eternal no that thing. Therefore, what you say eternal no, you reject this life and go away and live in the heaven of the gods or somewhere else like that, you see. Now, a living is through the aeon journey still accompanied by an eternal no. You have got in the Life Divine those two famous chapters, the denial of the ascetic, the refusal of the ascetic and the denial of the materialist, you see. Those two chapters are there. Materialist says, forget all that thing, it is all insubstantial, imagination, you cannot think of. Matter is the physical thing, it is the concrete thing, it is the base of thing, you see. And it denies anything which is non-material, the materialist. Whereas the religious man, the ascetic is, this is all mithya, this is all illusion, this is all drama, this is dream and all that thing, hallucination. Let us get out of it and go and elsewhere. So this yes and no is constantly kind of in conflict there, you see. And there is no reconciliation between the materialist and the ascetic, you see. There is a constant conflict. It is kind of a strong dichotomy which is present in the mind of man. And that dichotomy has really come because of the mind. Because of the mind, you see. That division of this and that has come because of the mind's construction, you see. Otherwise, there is no real division between the two, you see. If you see in the integrality of existence, there is no division at all. Now, this eternal no and limping yes. Let us go back to what we have in Book 3, Canto 2. Now this eternal no and limping yes. Let us go back to what we have in Book 3, Canto 2, 80.9. 80.9. Okay, we'll read something before that, you see. You see, Ashwapati has exceptional experiences of the divine grandeur and all that kind of a thing. And then he feels kind of happy. The soul can feel very happy with those things, you see. Oh soul, 80.3, I'm reading from that. Oh soul, it is too early to rejoice. Yeah, you have found that, okay, wonderful, but don't rejoice in that. It is not sufficient. Oh soul, it is too early to rejoice. Thou hast reached the boundless silence to the self. Thou hast leaped into a glad divine abyss. But where hast thou thrown self's mission and self's power? So you have got yes and no there, self's mission and self's power. On watered bank on the eternal road. Where have thrown them away those things? Self's mission and one has within thee, one was within thee, who was self and world. What hast thou done for his purpose in this stars? Yes, this and that is there within you. Your soul has come for that. What have you done for that? You see, escape brings not the victory and the crown. By simply going there, by simply asserting that yes, that escape is not sufficient at all for you. Oh soul, don't rejoice too early. That is what it says. Thou soul to rejoice. Something thou camest to do from the unknown. The soul has come for that purpose, to bring about an alchemic change in the working of its nature. That is the purpose for which the soul is here, to bring about an alchemic transformation in this world. Something thou camest to do from the unknown. But nothing is finished, and the world goes on. You keep on dying and dying and dying, but nothing is achieved in the end, you see, finally. But nothing is finished, and the world goes on, because only half God's cosmic work is done. Yes, you have reached the transcendental glories, you have attained those such on the heights and all that thing. Wonderful, marvelous, excellent that your spiritual progress has been to reach freedom of immortality. That's a wonderful thing. But nothing is finished and the world goes on, because only half God's cosmic work. It is not half God, it is cosmic work which is half done. It is that half cosmic work of God is done. This is not true. Only because only half God's cosmic work is done. Only the everlasting known has neared. This is what it says. No, yes, near. And stared into the eyes and killed the heart. But where is the lover's everlasting? Yes. That is the beauty. Lover, yes, this is my world, my darling, this creation is my dear to me and all that thing. Where is that? Yes, you are leaving this world and you are going away. No. Only the everlasting no has neared and stared into thy eye and killed the harm, but where is the lover's everlasting yes. In fact, that is the entire business of Savitri, to talk about that everlasting yes in this creation, to establish that power of love. That power of love should give a reality to this world which appears to us today false to be. That power of love has been there. But where is the lover's everlasting and immortality in the secret harm, the void that chant to the creative fire, the void that chant to the creative fire, the same alone, the great ascending word. That is the beauty of the whole thing. Where is that ascending word, that affirmation of God in this creation? That Om is the affirmation of God in His creation. That is what Om means. Realization of the Supreme in this manifestation here. That is the Om here. Where is that thing here? Yes, you may go up there and chant Om. Alright, okay. But it should be chanted in the depths of the night also. It should be chanted here also in the depths of the night. And immortality, the sacred the voice, the chant to the creative the symbol Om, the great ascending worm, the bridge between the rapture and the calm, rapture and the calm, the passive Brahman and the active Brahman, rapture, active and passive. Where is the link between these two, you see? The passion and the beauty of the bride, the passion and the, yes, this is she who learned. The chamber where the glorious enemies came, the smile, the save, the golden peak of thing, the golden peak of thing. Where is that? So that is what Ashwapati is going to discover in the course of his journey here. A limping, yes, through the aeon's journey still, accompanied by an eternal no. So that summarizes the entire history of spirituality of all these thousands of years. It started even perhaps much earlier than the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is an occurrence of a long process of evolution, and it is there. The Rig Veda speaks of God, immortality, freedom, up there, starting with yes there. But what about this creation here? It has not happened yet so far, you see. Limping, yes, through the eon journey, accompanied by an eternal law, all seems in vain until that answer is received of yes and no, that dilemma is resolved. That is resolved. Yet endless the game, it seems all in vain until that time. Impassive turn the ever circling wheel. It keeps on mechanically rotating, moving on and on, constantly mechanically. Life has no issue. Life has no solution. Life cannot resolve itself. All the difficulties, issue. Death can. Death brings no relief. Life has no issue. Life has trochee. No issue. I am. Death. I am. Brings no. Again a trochee. Release and am. Life has no issue. Death brings no relief. A prisoner of itself, the being lives. So you are kind of getting trapped now in yourself, you see. A prisoner of itself, the being lives and keeps its futile immortality. Yes, a prisoner of itself, the being, and keeps its futile immortality. This being is immortal within us, but it is futile. Extension is denied. You cannot disappear because it is immortal. Because it is, extension is denied. His soul escapes. The one who is within us is immortal. He cannot escape. And therefore, there is a kind of a conundrum. There is a kind of question mark, difficulty. What is a conundrum? That the whole thing looks to be an error of the gods has made the world. An error of the gods has made the world. It looks as if gods have committed some kind of a mistake, and as a result of that mistake, all this has happened. All this dilemma, this conundrum has arisen. An error of the God has made the world. Now, this is a wonderful line. It is so simple also, but packed with all the metaphysics in it. Packed with all the metaphysics. One can write a book on that. An error. Do the gods commit error? Do the gods commit errors? They do. If they cut themselves off from the Supreme Source, if they cut themselves off from the truth, they do commit error. If the contact with the truth is lost, then certainly you are going to make an error. You see, you are certainly going to make an error. Now, how is the contact going to get lost from the truth? If gods are connected with the truth, how, by what mechanism that contact can get lost? It can be self-will. It can be self-will. Truth has a power to give you your own affirmative will, and you can will this way or that way in whatever you like. And you can imagine, let me imagine what is going to happen to me if I go away from God. You can think like that, and you can become curious of it also, and you start pursuing it also. And the moment that happens, you start moving more and more away from truth. You are going to make a error. You are going to make a mistake. You are going to fall into a pit. In fact, the error of the gods is a fruitful error. It is also with a kind of a design. It is also a kind of a purpose. The four powers, what the mother speaks of, the four powers, cut themselves off from the origin. The four powers cut themselves off from the origin. That is a willed decision of these four powers. They are actually otherwise in contact with the Supreme. If they remain always in contact with the Supreme, they cannot change, they cannot bring about a new creation. It will be the repetition of the same greatness, beauty, love, and all kind of way. But if you want something new, something different, something growing, something expanding, all the while, then you have to cut off yourself from that source. And therefore, perhaps the way is to make an error, to cut yourself off from the origin, so that you are not dominated by the origin, and then find out a new path. So in that sense, one may say that this error of the God is a purposeful error, is an intended error to bring about a new creation, to bring about a new creation. It is an intended error. An error of the God has made the world. Otherwise, this would not happen at all. You see, like that, you see. Now, obviously, what are these gods? These gods are with small g. They are not supramaterial gods. The truth gods. The truth gods, the supramaterial gods, the gods of Satchidananda, they can never make an error. They are always bound to truth. They can never make an error. They can make an error only when they go away from their source, from their truth. So these gods are the overmind gods. The overmind god can drift away from the source and they can make a mistake. So the process of new creation actually begins with that. The process of new creation begins that these gods, overmind gods, they set themselves on the path and then they separate from that thing and then go down, 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 disappear completely into the void, and they find that there is something opposite the void. At that point, the Supreme takes a plunge into the void because of the error of the gods. The Supreme takes a plunge into the void because of the error of the gods. They have created a void, a nations, a night, all those things are there, and therefore the Supreme has incarnated himself into the void as a permanent avatar, and therefore the new creation can begin with that. So in that sense, the error of the gods is a functional error, is a fruitful error, it is a purposeful error. You see, in that sense, you see. An error of the God has made the world. How wonderful! If it is not an error by which the world is made, then perhaps the Eternal is watching everything indifferently. If it is not, in other words, indifferent, what is whom? Whether Eternal is watching whom? Time. Let time work out things in its own way. That is the kind of an indifference the Eternal can take. Let time, okay, you have set yourself into a time machine and let the time unroll and do whatever time wants to do, and therefore the Eternal can remain indifferent to all the actions and results and consequences of the work of time. It can remain. It can be there. So it can be an error of the God, or it can be an indifference of the Supreme Himself in that sense. Now, actually, and indifferent, the Eternal watches time. Eternal watches time. Let time unroll things. That is what it means. Means the Supreme has given the charge to time to do things the way time would unroll. And therefore the Supreme stays indifferent in that sense. Now, to a certain extent, we can see the sense the Divine Mother advising Ashwapati in Book 3, Canto 4, Division of the Moon. Ashwapati approaches the Divine Mother, and right in the beginning she says, "You have come here, all right, but you are impatient. You want things to change." And she keeps on asserting, look, my child, my friend, my son, don't be in a haste. Let time work itself out things. Why you are in a hurry? In the meanwhile, what you can do is you can go and help time, but let time unfold itself in its own manner. This is the kind of a strong advice he is giving to Ashwapati. In verse, she is also, in a certain sense, remaining indifferent to the shocks and pains and sufferings of this creation, and she is residing, reposing herself in time. She is now taking kind of a consolation, a stand, a poise that time will work itself out things. And therefore, one need not be in a hurry at all. After all, there is sufficient power, sufficient stuff in time to bring out certain things in its own process. Then why you are in a haste at all like that thing? You see? So that way, Ashwapati is told by the divine mothers, but Ashwapati says, sorry, 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 I am impatient. I want this thing to be got done right now, here and then. See. Now, there is a certain kind of a wisdom, there is a certain kind of an occult purpose also in Ashwapati asserting that because time will take long eons, that is one possibility. Already you have seen so many eons have gone, the volumes are present in the archives of life and nothing is yet gained. And how many more volumes will be required? We don't know yet, you see, like that, you see. So Ashwapati says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to wait for so many volumes to come out, you see. I want the result here and now, you see. And he demands, look, the things can be solved only if you take a birth in this mortal creation. Send your power, delegate somebody here, yourself, your own being, to take up the issue of mortality and solve it and resolve it. So he insists upon the Divine Mother herself for that kind of a solution. In other words, there is a sort of a little fear also in the mind, in the reckoning of Ashwapati, that time may go astray and things may not happen the way things had to happen. Time may go astray and things may not happen because he knows earlier on a number of occasions it didn't happen. There were pralayas, there were dissolutions of creation. If you live entirely to time alone, time may not be able to fulfill what it has. The forces of darkness, of inconscience, of this night are so strong, they can completely negate all the efforts of time, and therefore time may not be really able to achieve that thing at all. So you can't really remain indifferent. You can't really remain indifferent. That things will happen in the course of time and you can forget, you can take repose, you can remain quiet and proceed. It is a sort of a passive approach and not a dynamic approach of participation, of participating in the process of time, and therefore Ashwapati is very firm. Look, I am not going to wait for that. You have to come down here. Otherwise, there could be more pralayas, more dissolution, and things may go on and on like that, you see. So that is the current dilemma. Now, or indifferent, the eternal, what is time? Now, is the eternal really indifferent? Is eternal really indifferent? Well, he may remain and he may leave things to the mission of time, but is he still indifferent? Certainly he is not indifferent. He is not indifferent. He does intervene at crucial stages into the process of time. I come here as an avatar from time to time, yuge, yuge, age after age. I come here for what? Not only to remove the obstacles of the past, but also to establish new features of the future of spirit into the dimension, to bring about greater and higher and vaster manifestation into this creation. He comes here again and again, so he is not really indifferent in that sense that okay, let time work. He does come here and does work for me. So it is in fact in that sense you have a very crucial instance of incarnation of the avatar of Ashwapati coming here in an avatar. Ashwapati. Ashwapati cannot remain indifferent. Ashwapati cannot remain. The eternal cannot remain indifferent. He comes here as an Ashwapati. Now, the whole purpose here is, well, there is a real great difficulty of the night, and if the difficulty of the night is left in charge of time, then maybe there will be again more and more of dissolutions, more and more of pralayas. Ashwapati now is definite, is firm, is resolute in his mission and work, that this time it cannot be. It must be different. He cannot remain indifferent. Now, because of this stand of Ashwapati that he cannot remain indifferent, he has to go and look into the root cause of the difficulty, why it is happening like that, why things are not able to move forward, why time cannot always conquer the difficulties and bring about new creation. That he has to look into that thing, you see. So that issue is always there, and that is exactly what we have now in the next canto, Canto 7, the descent into night. Canto 7 of Savitri, you see, the descent into night. He cannot remain indifferent. Because he cannot remain indifferent, he has to see the issue here, the problem here. He has to enter into the night and see what is there in the night which is providing such a tremendous resistance to the movement of time. So that indifference is gone away completely from here. Now this is possible only in the case of an incarnate being like Ashwapati. So in that sense, Ashwapati's incarnation is very, very, very special incarnation. Very special incarnation. Perhaps it marks a totally different step in the process of evolution. Earlier evolutions were in a certain sense easier. Earlier evolutions were in a certain sense easier. They could be sort of carried out throughout all the Dashavatars, 10 avatars of Vishnu. Well, I will not say 10, 8 avatars up to Krishna. They were able to carry out the evolution forward, further and further, you see. But now here is an avatar which has to be totally different from that, because you have to now tackle the basic problem of the night. The problem of the night was present in the background, in the reserves of consciousness of those avatars, but that are not brought forward. They were pragmatic, they wanted to establish certain things. Yes, the pranamaya, the vital being has to come, life being has to come, pranamaya has to come, manomaya, the mental being has to come, has to arrive, the overmind spirituality has to arrive. So all those were very, very pragmatic steps of those avatars, and they really brought about those big changes, spiritual changes until now, you see, starting from our Rama as the mental avatar, you see, Rama, then of course came Krishna as overmind avatar, but their problem was not immediately to go into the details of this creation and enter into the night, because they were pragmatic. They wanted to build up a certain adhara, so that on that adhara, on that bhumi, on that support, a higher thing can be established. Now that adhara, that support is there, so with that support being there, you have to really look into the issue of this creation, the issue of life trapped in the night. So you have to enter, whether you like it or not, into the night, you see. And that is what Ashwapati is now going to do, he is going to enter into the night, you see. Now, in order to enter to the night, there are certain conditions. There were certain conditions. Perhaps those conditions were not applicable to the earlier avatars, because that was not their mission at that point. Their mission was a certain specific mission. If you are taking with a certain specific mission, it does not mean that you are a bad avatar. You have, in the pragmatisms of things, limited for a certain kind of an objective and an achievement. Rama's avatar route is to establish a mental being, and that was the purpose. Same way, other avatars also you see. So, in the pragmatics of things, what was necessary at the stage of evolution, that is what they accomplished. That does not make their avatarhood less important. See. Whereas now, the real problem of the night is to be faced and the challenge taken up and the issue resolved. That is the whole thing you see. A mind absorbed from life. So, in order to enter to the night, what is required is your mind should be absorbed from life. That is the first condition to really enter. Your mind absorbed from life, made calm to know. These were not necessary conditions for the other avatars because their purpose was not to enter into the night at that point of time. You see, a mind absorbed from life, made calm to know, a heart divorced from the blindness or the pang, the seal of tears, the bond of ignorance. He turned to find that wide world failures cause. World failures cause. Why the world is not able to achieve what it should achieve? What is the problem there? He is turning now into that kind of a issue. He turned to find that wide world failures cause. He has seen earlier that life came with great possibilities, but she was not able to establish all the spirit's potencies which are there into existence here. And in that sense, life felt herself incomplete, in a way incompetent to do certain things. Why? What could be there? So that is the purpose now. Ashupati is looking at the descent into the night. It is a unique canto also in the history of spiritual literature. You don't have such kind of a detailed description anywhere in the spiritual literature at all, you see. It is for the first time you are seeing the dimensions of the night and the horror and the havoc the night can create, you see. Now to enter into the night, of course, your mind should be absorbed from life. You should be absolutely calm, calm to such an extent that nothing can perturb you. Nothing. Even the most horrible thing does not shake you up. You have to have that kind of a calm, you see. Most injurious thing cannot hurt you. That kind of a calm you have to have. In fact, you are very, 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 very calm. Even death cannot touch you, you see. That's the sort of a thing you have to have, you see. That peace, that calm, that shanti, if you really establish within you, nobody can touch you at all. So, in order to achieve that thing, you have to establish that thing first. And Ashwapati has done his tapasya, has got established that thing, he can now enter into the night of the night. So, what I was saying was basically unless you have got that calm, this canto, if you read and kind of identify yourself with it, can be very disturbing, can shake you up, can rattle you, can throw you out of gear completely, you see, this canto. And mother, when mother was doing painting, Huta was rather doing painting with the mother, she told her, avoid this canto as far as possible. This canto as far as possible, you see, because you have to have that kind of a calm within you to depict those aspects of the night. Otherwise, they can be dangerous, they can hurt you, they can be really harmful to you, you see. You have to have that calm within you, see. So, when you are reading this canto, be careful also. I mean, don't identify yourself too much with this canto unless you have got that calm within you. Unless you have got that calm within you, don't touch this canto in a way of speaking, you see. But I will say that is perhaps one way of looking at it. Unless I got that calm, I should not go into the night. Which is a very safe way of doing things, you see. But if I have sufficient identification of myself with Savitri, what is being described here, it is that Savitri itself who can give you every protection anywhere. You can plunge into the darkest night and Savitri is there to save you. Savitri is there to save you. So identify yourself more and more with Savitri. And you can walk anywhere in this world without any danger. Nothing can harm you then. Hold Savitri in your soul, hold Savitri in your mind, hold Savitri in your heart, hold Savitri in your physical, and walk anywhere you like. You are absolutely safe. You can see then all the dimensions of the night, you can see all the dimensions of light, all the creation, everything. So Savitri is the greatest safety for you anywhere. Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri, lean down and kiss me while I die. That is the prayer of dying Satyavan. He repeats Savitri 10 times. Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri. Perfect line, you see, perfect iambic line. Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri. Savitri in the Nityapas, in Patal. Savitri in the intermediate world, Antariksha, mid-world. Savitri in the heavens. In all the three worlds, Savitri, Savitri, Savitri. Oh Savitri, lean down and kiss me. No problem. While I die. While I die? Die where? I am not really dying. I die to my past. I die to the legacy of inconscience. Lean down and kiss me while I die. Then all the greater splendors can come and enter into me. So that is the magic of Savitri. So if you hold Savitri yourself in your hand, in both your hands, if I got 10 hands, in all the 10 hands, whatever you have got, if you have got Sahasra Shirsha, 100 heads, hold Savitri in all the heads in you, Sahasra Shirsha, you see, and then walk into anywhere with Savitri with you, see. No danger at all, you see. So when you are reading the Descent into Night, this Canto, you stick to that, I will say. It will not do any harm at all. I will say Mother's was a kind of a immediate precaution to Huta. Depending upon her nature, upon her psychology, she was kind of careful. But the enlarged truth of it is, if you really are in the possession of Savitri in your soul, there is absolutely nothing which can do your harm. That is the whole thing, you see. And after all, Savitri then, she herself, the mother herself. So if you really hold her as a physical mother, you don't see her as a physical mother, you see the power of Savitri there in her, then what fear is there? What danger is there? You can straight away walk into the night and you are safe, absolutely safe, you see. So I will say the best thing is chant the mantra of Savitri and then start reading this canto. This canto has 140, so, well, it has got 6 sections. Relatively short canto compared with other cantos which have seen. For instance, the previous canto was a very long canto, almost 1,000 sentences it seems. Now here, you have got 140, you have got 140 sentences. Total number of lines is just 609 lines in this canto. And the total number of words is 4,609 in this canto. Relatively short canto, but it is occultly dense canto, you see, occultly dense. A unique kind of canto. Sentences 740, lines 609, syllables per line 10.727, lines per sentence 4.350, words per line 7.568. So there are many disyllabic, trisyllabic words in Savitri. Words per sentence. Words per sentence, 32.921 per in sentence. And total number of words, 4,609. So that is the length and breadth of the canto. And we have to prepare ourselves to really take up this canto. So, as I said, the safest mantra is Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri, and start reading this canto, you see. Then you are safe, you see. Yes, pa? Yeah. But for that, of course, to enter into that kind of a thing, a mind absolved from life, made calm to know, a heart divorced from the blindness and the pain, the seal of tears, a bond of ignorance. Blindness and pang, they are the seal of tears. They are the bond of ignorance. Blindness and pang come from the bond of ignorance. So you have to be really free of ignorance. You have to be really free of ignorance, you see. And Ashwapati has already done that kind of a tapasya. In the first book itself, his soul is free of ignorance. His spirit is released from the bondage of nature. The spirit has freedom, complete freedom, and therefore nothing can touch him, as I see. Ashwapati has already qualified himself to enter into the night. He turned to find that wide world failures call. That wide world failures we have already seen earlier now, and therefore he is now trying to explore what could be the reason that things are not moving the way the spirit would like them to move. The way the spirit would like them to move. Why things are not moving? That is what is happening, you see. He turned, as I said earlier, and let me repeat once more, he turned. This is for the first time that an avatar is trying to find this world failure's cause. Yes, avatar has been establishing new possibilities on the spirit in the process of evolution. But then avatars have come and avatars have gone. The problem of death has remained unsolved. The problem of death has remained unsolved, you see. Now, is this avatar also going to face the same fate? Is he going to meet the same fate as the earlier avatar? Not that we are condemning the earlier avatars, because they had their own definite objectives in mind. They established that thing and they didn't want to step the gun. The phrase is to step the gun. Step the gun means you are having a race. All the racers are in line standing at the starting point, and you are going to shoot the gun, and then the race begins with that. But at times, even just before that, somebody becomes little active and starts jumping. So that is called stepping the gun. And then he is debarred. He is debarred, stepping the gun, you see. You cannot step the gun, you see, like that. So the other avatars, well, they are in the race, but then they have their own objective not to cross a line given to them. In the pragmatics of things, in the pragmatics of evolution, this avatar his own pragmatic function in the scheme of things. But now that pragmatism has to go away and you have to really step into another world, another dimension of creation, you see. He turned. This is for the first time it is going to happen. The avatar is going to turn into the world failure's cause. For the first time it is going to happen in this entire creation. So that is the uniqueness of the avatarhood of Ashwapati. Uniqueness. And this can happen only when such an avatar comes directly from the Supreme. The mother speaks of him that he is the direct emanation from the Supreme. Direct emanation from the Supreme. not a delegated from the mental being, not from your mind being or any other place. He is the direct emanation from the Supreme that you was able to is, according to the mother. Mother says that he is the direct emanation from the Supreme, no other activity. And it is only he who can turn to find the world failure's cause. See, he comes with that purpose, you see. He comes with a stamp, with that envelope, with that chit in his pocket. He comes here like that, you see. Now, when did it turn? When did it turn? If we identify ourselves, if we identify he, Vishwavandu, avatar, when did Shivandu really turn to find this world failure's cause? Well, that was always there right from the beginning in the back of his mind, in the back of his spirituality. It was always there, but it was not always overt, always manifest in that sense. He has written books and books and books. The whole of Arya was filled up with the spiritual possibilities and all that thing. But then can we still say that at that point of time he had turned to find the world failure's cause? He wrote those Arya for 7 years. Did he turn to find the world failure's cause in that? He might have theorized all the aspects of it, but then to turn and to tackle it in the pragmatics of things, did it happen during that period of time? My apprehension is that it was not. It was a vision, it was a certitude, but the pragmatics of life, pragmatics of spirituality were of a different type. And Shivandu himself says, you see, Arya, 1914 to 1921, later on he says, his sadhana was waiting for the mother's arrival. His sadhana was waiting for the mother's arrival, you see. In other words, he did not turn to this problem till the mother's arrival. The mother's arrival, of course, means here 1920. 1920. So if you have to kind of limit down now the dates on which these things started happening, I will say it has to be definitely after 1920. He turned when? After 1920. Now can we further define a certain time, mark, date in the history of this development? The most important thing is, of course, the overmind realization in Shivandu's physical in 1926. The overmind consciousness descended into the physical. The Krishna consciousness descended into the physical. The physical received directly the power in 1924, 1926, you see. So, if the world failure cause has to be there, unless that overmind consciousness is in the physical, you cannot really tackle. Otherwise, what are you going to tackle? If the physical consciousness is not prepared, actually it has to be much more than the physical consciousness receiving the overmind. The physical is open now to the, but that may not be sufficient. So I will say that his turn has to be again pushed beyond 1926. 1926. And when the Krishna consciousness, the overmind consciousness was present in his physical, the real work towards transformation started happening. Began with that, you see. Real work began with that, you see. The event, see, after this overmind consciousness, the mother started bringing down various gods here. She had created a new world. Varuna, Mitra, Agni, all those gods she was bringing down here, Indra, Varuna, Nalina, like that. And she had almost created a new world in 1929. She said, no, sorry. This is not the world we want. You will be very famous, you will be very well known and that kind of a thing, but this is still an over mind creation. What we want is not over mind creation, we want the supramental creation. So you have to push the date again, you have to push that date again after 1929 also you see. So I will say the real work towards what is involved here is in the 1930s. In the 1930s. Now, the earlier part of the 1930s, we are not really aware of it fully, how things were happening. He was writing hundreds and hundreds of letters to the disciples in those days. In the 1930s, I mean, he had completely opened out the whole thing, and in a certain sense, he was preparing the entire basis for a newer work by writing those things letters, you see. They were forming up the foundation for a higher work to be done here, you see. So I will say the early part was connected with that, and in 1935, we have got a poem by Shebandu himself, a God's labor. I have been struggling, doing this and doing that and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot, 1935. Yet, God's labor at that time is not good enough, is not sufficient enough, is not strong enough to turn to world failure's cause. So I will push that date again after 1935, like that, you see, after 1935. Well, the real thing started happening after 1937. 1937. That is the period when he really started looking more and more into the problem of this world failure. His entry into the descent of night is the magical aspect of the whole thing, and that entry into the night is the crucial aspect of the entire story of the whole thing. That started happening in after 1935, God's labor. The first indication of this thing is in a sonnet written by him in 1937, in July 1937. I think let us see those sonnets, wonderful things. You are interested? Whether you are interested or not, I am going to read them.
Which sonnet is it? Which sonnet?
Pardon me?
Which sonnet?
I am going to read that. Collected poems. Yeah. See? Yeah. See, the sonnets which he wrote during the 1930s, they are available in the collected poems. And the first few sonnets in that collection, about 40-50 sonnets are there. First few sonnets are directly touching on this issue. Now, the sonnet written on 14th March 1936, The Kingdom Within. He is exploring the kingdom within. There is a kingdom with the spirits. It is not in this helpless world of thorn, thrown from the soil, etc. The grandeur and its eternal. That is the first thing we see here in 1936, 14th March 1936. And in fact, he wrote two sonnets on the same day, 14th March 1936, The Kingdom Within, and the Yogi on the Whirlpool. The Yogi on the Whirlpool. His spirit worldwide and companionless, seated above the torrent of the days, on the deep eddy that were being formed, silent, sustained the huge creation, sustained the huge creation stress, unchained, supporting nature's round and non, immobile background, the cosmic rays. That is the second time he has written it. In 36, you see. Then in 37, 24th October 1937, the divine hearing, he listened to the divine voice, a secret harmony still to the blind heart, a secret harmony still through the blind heart, and all grows beautiful because thou art. Because you are there, therefore everything is very beautiful. Now that is the kind of an experience you are already having there in 37, you see, 1937. And then we have got that famous sonnet on the electron, 15th July 1938, almost a year after that. The electron on which forms and worlds are built leaped into being a particle of God. See, lived in a particle of God. Now he became the chariot of Shiva to take the world creation forward. You see, so that is already physical is seeing God being taken by God. Lived into being a particle of God, binding, etc., etc. Then we have got another sonnet here. All these things. Say 15th July, 1937. See, there are two sonnets on the same date, electron and the indwelling universal. He wrote two sonnets on the same day, and he says, my vast transcendence holds the cosmic world. I am hid in it as in the sea a pearl. He is already seeing that kind of a thing, you see. And then the most decisive sonnet in this series is the pilgrim of the night. He has become the pilgrim of the night. First it was 24th July 1938. 24th July 1938. The pilgrim of the night. And that is exactly what we got here. He is the pilgrim now, descending into the night. The pilgrim of the night. I made an assassination with the night. See, he is already having an engagement, a rendezvous with the night. I made an assassination with the night, and the abyss was fixed our rendezvous. Deep down below was fixed our meeting between the night and him. In my breast, carrying God's deathless light. Unless I got that deathless avenue, you cannot really meet him. In my breast, carrying God's deathless light, I came her dark and dangerous heart to woo. To kiss a dangerous heart with the deathless light, and I can go and meet anywhere alive. I made an assassination with the night, and the abyss was fixed our rendezvous. In my breast, carrying God's deathless light, I came her dark and dangerous heart to woo. I left the glory of the illumined mind, no more required, and a calm rapture of divinized soul, not even that, and travel through a vastness dim and blind, coming into the night, dim and blind, vastness dim and blind, to the grey shore where her ignorant waters roll. I left all my glories and now I am walking into the shores of night to see. I left the glory of the illumined mind and a calm rapture of the divinized soul, and travel through a vastness dim and blind to the grey shore where her ignorant waters roll. I walk by the chill wave to the dull slime, chill wave to the dull slime, and still that weary journey knows no end. I walk and still there is no end to that thing. I walk by the chill way through the dull slime, and still that weary journey knows no end. Lost is the lustrous Godhead beyond time. I cannot see him now, that lustrous Godhead. Lost, there comes no voice of the celestial friend. I entered in the night and I do not hear his voice at all, you see. And yet I know my footprints track shall be a pathway towards immortality. That is the assertion. There comes no voice of the celestial friend, and yet I know my footprints track shall be a pathway towards immortality. So this is the first assignation of his with the night on on 24th July 1938, and he confirmed that thing again by making a small verbal change and a sonnet in 1944. In the verse, he is holding on to that, you see. And then comes the decisive moment of his triumph, of his glory, the sonnet, the golden light, the golden light, first written on 8th August 1938. 8th August 1938. I would say that is the most decisive moment of the transformation. He turned to find that world failures cause, and the result of that, or that world failures cause of his triumph and his glory, is what we have got here in this sonnet. The golden light, thy golden light came down into my brain, and the grey rooms of mine sun touched became a bright reply to wisdom's occult plain, a calm illumination and a flame. First, the golden light in his brain, then thy golden light came down into my throat, and all my speech is now a tune divine. Already the physical transformation taking place, a tune divine, a paean song of thee, my single note. Your victory song, your chant, your hymn, that is my only note, you see. My words are drunk with the immortal wine. Such kind of a triumph he has already had now. My words are drunk with the immortal wine. Thy golden light came down into my heart, smarting my life with thy eternity. Now has it grown a temple. My heart has become a temple. Now has it grown a temple where thou art, and all its passion point towards only thee. All my heart's passion only point towards thee, you see. Thy golden light came down into my feet, down below, right from here, from the crown to the feet, down below. Thy golden light came down into my feet. My earth is now thy playfield, and thy seed. Earth is thy seed, is ready now. The seed is ready. Come and occupy it. That is the command, you see. Thy golden light came down into my home. My earth is now thy playfield and thy seed. Now, well, this is in 1938, 8th August 1938. He turned, you see, the assassination is there. See, all those 3-4 sonnets are in the same short period, you see, completely. So it was constantly happening. So this turning point, I will pin down to that particular aspect of it. Until then, this canto, The Descent into the Night, was not present anywhere at all in the earlier Savitri drafts. In the earlier Savitri. It was not there at all in the earlier Savitri drafts at all. It started happening only after 1942, you see. But because all these things are already established in him, he turned to find, you see, because with all that power. Now this sonnet, 8th August 1938, thy golden light came here, 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 is the first occurrence of the supramental light and force entering into the physical. Entering into the physical. He's talking of brain and throat, all physical things, not my soul and not my spirit and not my emotions and all that. He's talking of now the physical aspects of it. My brain, thy throat, my heart, my feet. So that is the first sign, first indication of the supramental descent into his physical in 1938, 8th August. That's the time. You can start marking from that time onward. 8th August 1938, you see. Absolutely. And later on, much later, in 1950s, the mother says that she was seeing the supermind entering into his physical in 1938. Mother says that she was seeing the supermind entering into his physical, into Shivandu's physical in 1938. And she also says that Yes, it was entering into the physical. But at that time, what was happening was it was not remaining permanently there. It was coming, going, coming and going. Yes, the supermind is coming here, coming here, coming here, coming, but it is not remaining stable, permanently there. It is touching all right, but it is not remaining permanently there. And his yoga tapasya from that point onward is to see that it gets completely stabilized in him. Completely stabilized in him. It remains permanently there. And from that point onward, the entire course of his yoga tapasya completely changed with that, you see. And what we have got Savitri in the 1940s is the beautiful fruit of the tapasya. It is not the earlier fruit. When his physical has started receiving the supramental light and force, it is at that point of time the Savitri is coming out. So Savitri is carrying that atmosphere, that power, that strength, that ambience, that light always with it, you see. Had Savitri been written earlier than that, perhaps it would not have been that remarkable, so to say, you see, that astounding, that powerful. Because the supramental light and force are there in him, and with that he is writing Savitri. It is a totally different connotation, different meaning, different sense altogether, different power altogether. So it is the goldenest kind of fruit of his yoga tapasya presented in the form of Savitri, you see. So when you are reading Savitri, you are really directly in touch with that. You are absorbing that vibration, that strength, that light within you constantly. That light is constantly entering within you, and then you can walk anywhere. You can walk into the night. He turns, and you can really see all that kind of thing from that point onward. You see, that is the great change that has taken place in his physical. And then you can see from 1942 onward, all those 8 years he was devoting to Savitri. So Savitri is embodying that complete consciousness, supramentalized consciousness in him in this process. That is the greatness of Savitri, you see. So that is what the first sentence says: a mind absolved, made calm to know, a heart divorced from the blindness and the pang, the seal of tears, the bond of ignorance. He turned to find that word wise failure's call. He turned to find. Turn, there will be audition. But did he really turn? In that sense, that is a way of seeing. He was occupied with it. He was always occupied with it. What was necessary for him is to find out the mechanism, the process by which things can be changed. By which things can be changed. Otherwise, behind his consciousness, right from the beginning, the moment he left Calcutta and came to Pondicherry, it was already known that he has to turn to find the world failure's cause. But then the mechanism, the detail, the operational aspects had to be worked out, and it is that which has taken that time, you see, 30 years till 1938, so to say, and then things started happening in a definite. He turned to find that world failure's cause.
The,
Pardon me?
the golden light and
Yes.
entering through a window into the physical, it coincides directly with the Second World War. So then the whole darkness comes out in the Second World War.
Is it?
Of course, it's 1938 to 1945.
Yeah.
That's 7 years where he starts, and then, when he enters that deep down
Yes.
in conscience, then it comes
It has to come
out,
up,
and then
obviously.
the whole world
Actually, in fact, that is the point, that exact point. See, in fact, the first consequence, the first reaction to the golden light into his brain, into his throat, into heart, into the feet is World War II. World War II. The entire problem was now there, and the World War II had to happen, you see. World War II. Actually, it was there, kind of pending there, the World War II, the law of nations was there to kill everything, to destroy everything, and in order to take possession of that thing, This is the important. So entering into the night is in fact on a physical plane. The occult plane is tackling the world, the Lord of Nations basically here. Until then, the other things have already surrendered to some extent, you see. But Lord of Nations is standing firm and dependent. He found an instrument and all those things happened, but in a certain sense they were pretext. The yogic power now was so strong, so supramental, that nothing could oppose it. Nothing could oppose it, you see. He tried every trick, the Lord of Nations. The mother had to impersonate and misguide and all that sort of thing. All those things are there, you see, completely, you see. Now that is the occult aspect of it, you see. But all that things started happening as a result of his establishing the supramental consciousness in his physical. The reaction from the bottom, from the night, from the darkness is of that kind. Oppose divine's work in its full strength, in its full might. And that was the only chance by which it could remain here. If it gives up, it is gone permanently here, you see. But the force was so strong. Well, in a way, you are speaking, all these great epoch-making events. World War II is an outward sign of the occult things which are happening deep within. World War II is a physical event for most of the people, historical event, this happened, that happened, all the stories are there, but the occult basis, the occult fact behind that is of a much deeper kind. All these things happen with the presence of the avatar. The avatar comes here for that purpose, to destroy what opposes God's work. To destroy what opposes God's work. And that's not the only thing to destroy. Not only to destroy, but then to establish new powers of the spirit into evolution. New power. The mind of light, that is a new creation which started with that. New powers of the spirit in the process. So the avatar's work is twofold: to destroy all that opposes the divine work and carry the evolution forward to higher grade of consciousness. Same thing happened in the case of Krishna. Krishna's avatarhood, I come from Yuga not only to destroy the evil and all that leads you astray, but also to establish a new consciousness in the grade of things. You see, same thing happened in the case of Brahma. All the Asuric forces, the vital forces which were so strong, they were completely dissolved by the emergence of Ravana into the Supreme. He had completely given up, and then the Manomaya Purusha started working safely in the entire process. So the work of the presence of an avatar also means a great calamity in a certain sense, but that calamity is there to get removed, get dissolved, to disappear. The avatar's power is there, work is there. So you say always a twofold work. The opposition from the inconscious, from the negative night is so strong that it is not going to allow any power of the divine to come and work here. It has to be destroyed, it has to be overcome, it has to be taken forward and then bring out a new consciousness. Now, with this thing, in future, it may not be so. In future, you see, these calamitous events accompanying the presence of avatar, so to say, may not be there in future, because there is already now the divine working the supermind here in the dynamics of supermind. So it is not that way now going to happen in future. So future is of a different kind altogether. What, etc., that we'll have to see now. So no, basically, in fact, in a certain sense, therefore, one can say that in that manner of destroying what is evil and putting a new grade forward in the work of each avatar in future, that avatarhood may not be necessary. We may not need that kind of avatar in future. That avatar should come here. 10 avatars, yes, finished. Their work is done. Now things will keep on happening in the very dynamics of the spiritual working here, the dynamics of the spirit itself here. So new manifestation, new creation. When Shivanu says, I will come in a body, in a supramental body, made in a supramental way, he is not coming in the nature of an avatar as the previous avatars, the earlier avatar. He is coming here now to carry that work of supramental body in a supramental way to different grades of evolution in the domain of knowledge and beatitude and joy and happiness. It is that kind of a thing will go on. So it is not by fighting a calamitous event on the earth that thing will happen, because they have been already taken care of in a certain sense. Things will happen now in a different way. Or when he says, I will come in a supramental body, in a supramental way, it is for the manifestation of the powers and possibilities of Sachidananda in this mortal, in this deathless creation here. You see, that is the whole thing. You see. So that is a news. Well, we can keep on talking about it. You see, beyond that, you see. Sava?